Jackson. All right, so right now, currently the owner of Gutter Guys, ex-owner of Blue Diamond Window Cleaning,
Yep.
successfully scaled and exited, so we'll definitely talk about that for sure. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, my name is Jackson. I run a gutter business. We install gutters, fascia soffit on residential homes, and I've been running the business for about 7 years now. So it's a good time.
That's dope.
Yeah,
So yeah, I guess we've known each other for what now? A year and a half,
year and a
2
half,
years
something like
maybe,
that. Feels like longer though.
something like that. I know. So first things first, I want to get into childhood. What was it like being Jackson? You know what I mean? What was the household like? Your parents? How were you raised?
Yeah.
That type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely a crazy household growing up in. I have a total of 6 siblings, like myself included, and my dad was he was ex sports player, ran a few businesses,
What did
real
he
estate,
play?
basketball and track,
Okay.
and so yeah, growing up we had a very unconventional upbringing, and a lot of times when kids get in trouble, they have to go to their room or get their phones taken away. We didn't have phones, and we weren't sent to our rooms. We'd have to go and run laps, and so
That's fire.
it was always tough. Whenever you got in trouble, you knew you were gonna feel some physical pain, and so that was kind of what it was growing up. Hectic house, a lot of yelling, arguing, but
So your dad actually ran business as well.
yeah, he had a couple that he was running.
What were those?
So he had one where he had actually owned a mechanic shop for a
Okay.
bit, and then he a lot of times also did like flipping houses.
Okay.
So I had like a flipping business,
A little bit of contracting.
a little bit of contracting, built a couple houses.
Okay, nice.
And then but throughout this whole process also was a realtor, so he was selling houses the whole time as well.
So he was obviously like highly competitive, highly driven.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
So growing up, like you played sports in public school.
Yeah, I played soccer when I was put us in soccer when I was 3, and then soccer was pretty much the main sport. Played a little bit of basketball in elementary school, and then in high school switched over to full-time basketball, and then went on and played at university after that.
Cool. So what type of like growing up in public school? Like what type of guy were you? Who'd you hang around?
I was definitely around like all the playing with the athletes,
Yeah.
outside recess,
Wasn't
playing
right.
manhunt or playing football or playing
Pickup.
pickups and shit like that. So that was mostly. I was loud, rambunctious, full energy, and shit disturber.
Okay, fire.
Yeah.
And then so you go to high school. So what public school you go to in London?
Yeah, I went to Marie Curie, like a French school,
French school.
and then I went to John Sauvé after that,
Okay.
and then after that I went to Banting. So French immersion throughout the whole process.
So from grade 9 to 10, 11, you were at some French school?
From grade like 1 to 4, I was at a full French, and then grade 5 to 8, I was at immersion, and then high school immersion as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben was too.
Okay, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you played basketball. When did you actually make the switch from soccer to basketball?
So soccer was the main sport. Actually, my teams I was on was pretty good. We actually went to like tournament in Sweden when I was in like grade 7. And that was like the main sport pretty much. That and like cross country. But then in grade 9, I honestly switched over to basketball because I'm like, you're gonna get more girls playing basketball than soccer. So I was like, you know what, let me do that. And I was short at the time. I was only like 5'2" in grade 9. But
That's crazy.
yeah. But then obviously hitting growth spurt each and every summer. And then by then, obviously, I was like 6'3" by the end, so it worked out. And yeah, just more fun. Honestly, I didn't like playing outdoors either. It was the weather when you play soccer, the cold. I was like, I could just be in a gym, So it overall, it just was more hype, more fun.
True. So you've always been competitive in sports? Like soccer, obviously, went to Sweden. That's got to be...
Yeah, that was
competitive.
definitely always competitive. It's just I got that from my dad for sure. I hate losing. Like it drives me nuts when I lose, and so yeah. So Sweden was really cool. We went over there, came in like 3rd place. It was like it's called the Gothenburg Cup, and
How old were you?
I think I was like 14, 13.
Oh, damn.
And so yeah, but our team was really good. So like that's why we went, and that was a really cool experience. Got to kind of just see the world a little bit
That's sick.
and play some sports. So yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so you go into high school. You're at Banting in high school?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you pick up basketball grade 9?
I played basketball in elementary school,
Okay.
Like I was kind of doing both. They're not at the same time. So I was playing basketball in the winter, and then in the summertime, obviously spring and summer is soccer. So doing both, but then kind of full time went into basketball in grade 9.
Okay. And so grade 9 high school ball. Obviously, you tried out, made a team.
Well, it actually was funny. I wasn't doing good in school in grade 9. I wasn't trying that hard, and so my dad actually that summer that year actually didn't let me play basketball. So actually in grade 9 at Banting, I actually did wrestling for 1 year, and that year anyway there was like the lockdown. For anyone who was in high school in London at that time, there was a lockdown, so sports didn't end up going through. Like we didn't go all the way through to off or anything like that. But I did that for a year, and then that was an experience.
A lockdown. What the hell was that from?
Basically, I think all the teachers went on strike or something like that during that
year.
It
was for all like, extracurriculars.
Extracurriculars,
yeah.
Okay. So there was we weren't even allowed to play anyway. We played like half a season.
Okay.
And then it just stopped.
And that was your grade 9. So then grade 10, you that was your first year of basketball?
That would have been my first year of high school basketball. I played in elementary school, up until grade 8.
But never outside of.
No, never outside. No.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, I guess high school. What type of people are you hanging around? Still just athletes?
Yeah, just athletes.
Really?
Yeah, just athletes. Didn't pick up a book. Didn't do none of that. Just was literally sports.
Were you the type of guy? Because obviously you're pretty charismatic now, but like, were you the type of guy that you were like kind of friends with every group?
Yeah.
Or were you?
Yeah. I was like, depending on who was there and what we were doing, I could adapt. Whether it was like kind of like the cooler kids as you'd put in high school, or like then there was like obviously the athletes, and then if I needed help, I'd go see the nerds. I'd go get them to do some work for me. So it kind of leveraging. Whatever people I needed to in the situation.
Okay, cool. So, grade 12, you obviously finished high school, and then from there, you actually played a higher level of basketball, correct?
Yeah, there was a new prep league in London for like basketball. So we had a lot of kids come from Toronto, and it was hosted at Beale. So I went there for my grade 13, kind of did that, and then worked a little bit. Before that, I honestly didn't have any looks really from universities. But after that year, I had 15 or something like that in Canada. I was
after grade 13.
After grade 13, after playing the prep.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, when you're
going.
What
is that? What is a prep league?
Basically, it's anyone who wants to take a sport seriously. You're just full time all year round. You typically in high school, as soon as basketball season's done, everyone stops. All the guys who are playing aren't that serious, so they're just like there for the fun of it, just a good time. But everyone who went to prep, you got to obviously pay for it. There's lots of travel and stuff like that, and so you're full time in the morning. 5 a.m. we'd have practice, like a lift, and then we'd go to class. And after school we'd have like 2 practices, something like that. Weekends practice. So it was kind of my first introduction to a very competitive environment where I wasn't the best you could say on the team, and so there was a lot of guys that came from Toronto that were pretty good, and so it was certainly a good cohesive environment where we could really prep ourselves, hence the word, for trying to play at the next level.
For sure. And so that's done grade 13.
Yeah.
Grade 13 you go to, after grade 13, after the prep school you go to?
I go to Ottawa U for 1 year.
Okay.
And that was an experience in itself. I mean, every kid that goes out of high school to go play basketball, gets recruited, thinks that they're going to come in and they're going to start. Because every time you go from elementary school to high school, you're back down to the level 1, exactly. And so the jump from high school to university is such a big jump, just in terms of their IQ. They're obviously a lot stronger, a lot bigger. The game's a lot faster, and so there's a lot more, studying the game, watching film, things of that nature that you don't necessarily do in high school as much, maybe a little bit, but not as extensively. And so when I went there, it was an experience. I thought I was going to be good, and I realized quickly that I wasn't. In my mind, I still thought I was the best. I thought the coach was kind of playing me dirty, which there was a little bit of that, but ultimately it worked out in my favor because I decided after the first month I was going to redshirt. I didn't like the coach. I didn't like the school. I didn't like the city. I didn't like being there. It was cold as shit. So I was like,
what is redshirt?
Redshirt basically means that you don't play, and so you don't lose a year of eligibility. Because how it works in varsity sports or university sports is you have 4 years in the States, 5 years in Canada eligibility, and so if you redshirt, you don't waste a year.
I see.
And so if you wanted to transfer back then, you had to redshirt. If you played, you'd have to sit out the next year. So if I played that year and I wanted to transfer, I would have to sit out wherever I went. And so after like a month and a half, I knew I was probably going to transfer. And so I decided to redshirt and just bulk up. Honestly, I was in the gym like twice a day, 3 times a day, putting up shots, going to practice, doing all the other things because I wasn't traveling with the team. So I would just, dress. I wouldn't even dress for the home games. It was actually very humbling experience because we had like 16, 17 guys on the team. And so, I went in thinking I was going to be, playing, maybe even to be a starter. And they got to the point where I wasn't even in uniform, nor was I even sitting on the bench. I actually had to sit in the stands because there wasn't even no seats. So imagine your mind, like how mentally like crazy it is going from like thinking you're gonna play to being in street clothes, cheering the guys on from the bench. Like it's something that most people don't realize happens quite a lot, and it was a humbling experience.
So obviously you were confident then going all the way through the prep school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So would you say that was probably your first time where you were like, damn, like there might be some bigger fish in the sea here?
Yeah, I would say for sure. That time it was, there was a moment when I decided to redshirt, where for like a month I just kind of chilled. I was, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was definitely like down because I was like, in my mind I was so, so much better than that. And so I just honestly was just like smoking weed, just chilling, like going to practice and not really trying, like just, partying, doing whatever, because I was like, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
But then I had a friend there that was a good friend and called me out on it the one day. He came in my apartment or whatever you call it, dorm, and he seen me just smoking weed. He's like, "Bro, you're a loser," and I was like, "Damn." But honestly, it's those type of guys that you kind of need when you're in those situations where they know that you could be better, and maybe just in that moment you're just down. And so after that is when I locked in. That's from that on. So again, when I decided redshirt, I took like a month off. But then after that, the rest of the year, I kind of found where I was going to go. I started like saying, okay, I'm going to look at other schools, and I reached out to some of the schools that I was that recruited me before I decided Ottawa. And then I just locked in, just put on like 25 pounds. I just was in the gym, putting up 1,000 shots a day, and just
Kobe Bryant stuff.
just grinding it out. And and then it's funny because when I came back in the summertime, everyone's like asking me about steroids because I put on so much weight. But yeah, so that was definitely a moment where I certainly got that mental fortitude. And there's a full circle moment because when I decided to go to Laurier. The next year.
You went from Ottawa, red shirt, and then went to Laurier.
I went to Laurier, and
real quick, what did the coach say in Ottawa? Like how was that relationship when?
Yeah, it wasn't the best, honestly. Like he, it's a business at the end of the day. Like when you're going to a school to play sports, it's a business. They have a job to do, which is win games. So their job is to put the best people on the court that they think is going to help the team succeed, which ultimately will reward them by getting sign another contract with the school. And so I get it from that standpoint. But if I done my research a little bit more, I would have realized that that coach had that reputation to kind of as soon as he doesn't see value, just kind of discard you and not give you any attention. Which whatever it is, what it is. But I did get my revenge game when I came to Ottawa for my first time after I transferred. And that was a sweet moment where, the adversity that I faced when I came in there, I started, which was surprising to the coach because I actually started, and I had like a double-double, I had like 11 points, like 10 rebounds. We won the game, and like all the people in the stands that I used to see before, like last year when they would be asking me why I wasn't playing and whatever. It was kind of a moment where they all got to see that I wasn't everything that the coach was kind of making it look like. And so when we won, that was the moment I was just I was like, I know I'm that guy, and that was just a good thing for me to always look back on is when I had that adversity, was able to turn it around and get my fuck you moment to the coach. The grin that you guys would have seen if I when I was shaking his hand at the end of the game after we kicked his ass and we won was nothing. The rest of the night I was on such a high that no drugs could do to you.
Cloud 9.
Oh, cloud 9. And then I went out with the old teammates, went out downtown, and that was just like even my old teammates were just hyping me up because they're like you came in here, you beat us, and you actually played really well and you started. And so that was one of the sickest experiences. I always remember just that feeling of being so down and then
just winning,
just grinding out and winning.
That's
and
sick.
beating them. That was definitely a highlight.
That's sick.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how long do you play at Laurier for then? How many years?
I played 2 seasons and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So when COVID happened, then it was kind of the 1 year everything shut down and everyone was at home, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year it started back up, but the schools were a little bit whack, and so when I decided not to get the vax, basically I got kicked off the team, and so I didn't really care because I was kind of already after COVID when everything stopped. You're so focused on one thing, and then when you have to stop that, you kind of realize that there is more to life than just the sport, and that there is going to be something you're going to have to do, progress to, and so during that time when we weren't playing, that's when I started actually diving deeper into the business because I was obviously still running it while I was in school, just kind of more like a part-time.
So so it's 2020, everything gets shut down, right?
Yeah.
So for that year,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
That year I expanded the business to Waterloo, and that year I think we jumped from we either jumped from 40,000 the year before to 90, or we did the 90 to 400. I think we did 45 the year before because again it was just like a part-time summer job. Didn't really know what I was doing. No systems, no structure.
Mm-hmm.
I was lazy ass. So yeah, we went from 40,000 to 90,000, and just because I just put a bit more effort in, started watching some YouTube PBD. That's when I honestly got introduced to PBD.
Nice.
And I was looking for my first hire. Just typed in how to make your first hire, and then his stuff came up, and I started watching, and I just started consuming it all, and just sending it to my partners, and just started trying to input what I was seeing into the business. And obviously still didn't know anything, didn't have any coaching, didn't have any systems, didn't have any structure, but just even those tidbits that I got for free on YouTube kind of started to give us some momentum.
Yeah, YouTube's powerful, man. A lot of people don't realize that, but yeah, it's super, super powerful.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, honestly, whatever you want to do, it's on YouTube.
100%.
You just gotta, obviously, if you want more hands-on, more in depth, more step by step, then you can pay a coach, but you can get started and get a pretty good start just from watching YouTube and just applying yourself, as opposed to Netflix binging. Just find somebody that seems credible, binge their stuff, check the comments, see what they've actually done, and then just grind it out.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know COVID, especially that first year when everyone was complete panic, mayhem, all that stuff. It's that year. I know for a lot of guys that I used to hang out with or know, or guys that still know, that was a huge make or break year. Where it's you either, go in your cocoon and start building, working on yourself, start working on your business, whatever, or it's gonna break you, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody to a certain degree did that chilling phase where there was nothing to do, so you're just kind of chilling, just lounge around. There's no gyms, you can't go anywhere. So everyone to a degree had a bit of a took a step back, whether it was a week, whether it was a month. Some people are still, and so it depends on how quickly you snapped out of it. But it was a good perspective change. Did a little bit of haircutting too for a bit. I was wondering if I was gonna become a barber. And so, I mean, obviously we couldn't get haircuts, so I was like, well, I might as well. And the one thing that I always respect my dad is whenever he sees something that I'm trying to do, he'll try and support me in that. So when he noticed I was using his 25-year-old dog clippers that we used to I guess cut my dog with, way back in the day, it was archaic. I think one of the teeth on the razor was broken. So every time I give a cut, there was always some messed up pieces on it. And so he went out and bought me a new clippers.
Nice.
And then he invited my barber, because my dad and my barber are kind of friends, play basketball together, and so he invited him over and was giving me tips and stuff like that. And so I was cutting everyone in my family's hair for a bit, cutting some friends, and just trying to learn some new skills. And also, again, during that time I didn't think you could knock on doors, and so I wasn't doing that. I kind of used that as an excuse when I know there was other guys that used that as everyone's home, let's go knock. I didn't see it that way. I didn't have that frame of mind at the time, so that's when I kind of looked at other things.
For sure. Okay, so when did you kind of realize that, hey, you know what? This business that I have going, the gutter company, this could actually be something cool,
Yeah, I would say the next year after I kind of took it a bit more serious.
2021?
Yeah, 2021. Everyone was at home. it was a bit of a boost from the economy because everyone was investing in their homes. I mean, at that point, if you were a tradesman and you did not have work, you were useless. Everyone was home. Everyone was getting money from the government. Everyone was trying to improve their home. So if you weren't, getting leads or getting jobs, you quite literally weren't doing anything. And so that was obviously a bit of inflated numbers from that, but nonetheless, that year, we jumped from like 90 to 400. And so we got to see, that this could be possible. Now, obviously, there was, other factors. It wasn't profitable. I think I made like $5,000 of everything just because, I bought a truck. We just didn't know how to train guys. We were buying equipment that we didn't necessarily need. We weren't quoting jobs properly. Didn't have structure in place. Employees weren't being trained properly.
For sure.
So there was a lot of other factors. But in terms of just like raw, growth and expanding the mind, seeing it as possible, it was that year when we made that jump.
2021.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I guess that year, then all of 2021, you did 400. Roughly,
yeah, I
give or
mean,
take?
you could say all year, but we really at the time I was not doing gutter installations. I was just doing window cleaning,
That's
gutter.
just
windows, gutter cleaning. We did some gutter guards, some pressure washing.
Okay, dope.
And we had 2 cities going on, so that was London and Waterloo.
Nice.
And so I had 2 partners in London. One was my brother, one was my best friend at the time, and then myself. And so I was kind of running Waterloo and then kind of driving back and forth, helping them whenever they needed help. Yeah.
Cool. So at what point did you actually, get out there, knock doors, start getting leads other ways, like whatever, Facebook ads? Like what was that point that you were like, okay, like this is 100%, I'm doing this full time, for sure? Was there like a turning point where you were like, damn, this could really be something huge?
Well, a lot happened in 2021 because 2021 was when we bought out my one partner. We bought the window cleaning business, and then later that summer I shut down Waterloo because I was kind of done school-ish, and so then I moved back here. So 2021 there was a lot going on, but I would say that that was when we started making progress because that year. Either that year or the next year we did 700. I think we did 400, then we did 750,000 that year. Now, obviously, buying a company is going to have an infusion because obviously that business did a couple $100,000, so that obviously adds to it. And then just being in one city for half of the year was also helpful. But honestly, to start, all we had was lawn signs, some door to door, and we did some flyer drops. That was it. No digital, no website, nothing really. It was just. Had a good name, gutter guys, people see it, they call us. So, picking a good name was helpful. But really, there was nothing special. We didn't really do anything. It was just like a logo that was bright and purple and easy to see, and the name that was easy to remember. So when people would see our lawn signs, and we would plaster. I mean, if anyone lived in London during that time, we were dropping. I'd be dropping signs off because I realized. It takes so long to drop off signs in the day because there's cars and you got to park your car on the side, in the neighborhood and then run across and put them in the roads. And so what I ended up starting doing is I just, go home, take a nap and then wake up at 1 a.m. and then just go blast the city because I could stop in the middle of the road. No one's around. Put my my hazard lights on, hop out, put a sign and then drive, another 2 kilometers, get out, put another sign. So it was just the most efficient way to drop signs. So yeah, we would just every 2 weeks I'd drop 15, 20 signs, and sometimes they last a day, sometimes they last a week, sometimes they last a month. It all depends on the city and what they want to do.
Did the city ever get on your ass?
Oh, for sure. But I think we've only gotten 2 fines, and they were $175 each. But if you compare it to the amount of work we got,
for sure.
I mean,
it's a good investment.
Yeah, my mom was our admin at the time, and so whenever the leads were low, I would just go drop off signs, and all of a sudden the phone started ringing. And so at the time, nobody else in London was really putting signs like us. And so at one point, it was just every corner of the city, just signs. We put them in spots where city workers would have a hard time, in the middle of the medians, because there's obviously a road going 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes this way.
When they're working during the day.
Yeah, and so during the day, I know how hard it is to get a sign there, and
That's
so
hilarious.
For them, I'm I know it's gonna be hard for you to get that sign down, and so I kind of use that whatever is hard is gonna be harder for them because they're not coming in at 1 a.m. to take my sign down.
For sure.
And so I kind of use it in that way.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So that was 2022.
Yeah.
That was 2022.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I guess what would you say? Like, I know there might be some guys listening who don't even have a business thinking about getting started. Like, I know me and you were obviously both in that situation at one point. So, like, what would be one thing, like, just to get started? What would be like your first step, if you could do it again, or maybe how you did it? The best first step you could take.
First up, get a sales job, because you're going to be able to learn how things work from another company standpoint, and it might be a different trade that you want to do, whatever it is. Go learn how to sell. You're going to see their sales process. You're going to see, to a degree, how some of the business runs beyond the sales, because you're going to be, crossing paths with production team, or crossing paths with, some of the admin team. Obviously, if you're selling, you got to talk to the admin about scheduling or whatever, and then talk to the production if they have any problems. So you get to kind of see a little bit of how things work, and just, ultimately, take from that, business some of the systems that they have. And then you'll also be able to see if you really want it, because if you ever do talk to any of the owners, you're going to see that in the early phases, they're working a lot more than sales guys think they're working a lot. But, when you compare it to the guys who are, actually running the business, sales is just one of the, 3 or 4 key pillars. Because obviously you got, sales, you got the marketing, you've got the production, and then you've got like the admin, finance. So like, they have to only focus on really like primarily one of the 4 pillars, and, trying to do all 4 when you don't know anything about either of the 4, it's just like you're just going to be spinning your wheels, because you don't know what you're doing, and you're wasting time, you're wasting resources. At least if you can get down the sales first, that will help you with your business, because you can get sales. You might not know how to market, but at least if you know how to, market to a degree, knock on doors, then you can market and you can sell. And so that gives you a good first framework as to, how the business works. Again, if we didn't know nothing, that would be my advice: is find a sales job and stick with that for, a year, take as much you can. And then, if you, a lot of times people get into sales, and the freedom, is a double-edged sword. Either you can double down and take that freedom and really try and grind and learn and improve your skills, or you do the bare minimum just to hit, more than the laborers and work maybe slightly less than them, but then just, screw around with the rest of your time. And if you're in that camp, camp 2 just kind of takes advantage of the time, then I would suggest not starting a business, because when you go on your own, you're going to have all the time, and you're going to have, none of the systems helping you. You're going to have to create all the systems. You're going to have to do all the other pillars. So when you're done sales, great, you've done one thing. You've got 3 other, massive pillars that you've got to build and operate and, perfect. And so if you're not taking the sales serious, you're not putting all your time to that, then, throw in the towel, because you're not going to do it.
And another thing too, that I like what you said with the double-edged sword, because that's so true. And it's like, even as like business owners, or if you're like in a commission-only position, right, where you only get paid based off of your performance, it's like you literally, it's completely up to you. Like you can make all the money or no money.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I also like I know we have, similar systems in that sense of like, you start your guys on door to door, and it's kind of like a military boot camp, like a hell week,
Yeah, well, the nice thing with door to door is that if you don't have the discipline to do that, then you're not gonna have the discipline to do the other things. Because obviously, you gotta do your calls, set the appointments. You gotta go to the appointments, and if they don't close on spot, you gotta be following up. You gotta be asking for the referrals, do all these things. So if you don't have the confidence or the ability to do the most basic tasks like training wheels, if you can't ride the bike with training wheels, well, why are you gonna try without the training wheels? You know what I mean? You gotta master the basics first, and then from there, then you can do that. And also, I mean, even if there's a lot of industries that aren't even allowed to knock on doors, and so the beautiful thing about our industry is that you can. And so if there's ever a situation where your business can't provide you leads, that doesn't matter. You can go get your own leads. And so the well is never dry. You can always get water just by simply going knocking on doors and filling up your bottle in that way. So
that's a fantastic point. So 2023, right after 2022. 2023, right, 2 years ago.
Yep.
That's what was going on that year?
That year, we finished that year at like 750K that year. Not a ton of profit, but again, all the profit pretty much reinvest, like all of our trucks and all of our stuff. We were just paying cash, so we didn't really care necessarily about putting money in our pockets as much.
It's actually a huge thing though, because I mean, realistically, like, reinvesting is so massive. Like, I feel like everyone from an outside perspective who doesn't know anything about business or has never maybe owned a business is like, yo, like, these guys must be making, like, $1 million a year. You know? And it's like, you got to reinvest $980K.
Well, yeah, and
like,
then they don't really understand it. So now I'm at the point where with my employees, I literally show them everything. I'm like, here's how much we spend on marketing. Here's how much our sales costs. Here's how much you guys make. Here's how much our material cost. Here's how much the admin stuff. Here's how much the trucks cost. That gutter machine you're using, that's $23,000. The truck you're driving, that's another. So that way, it's like, you want more, then go start your own. But like, there's a lot of things that we've put in place for you to be able to go out there and make good money. And so we've structured in a way where pretty much every position has a way to make additional performance pay, but it's based off of, being an A player. And so I always tell everyone I hire, it's called the Pareto principle, which is basically the 80-20. You've kind of heard it, you've probably seen it on Instagram. But essentially, like, 20% of people do 80% of the work. And so for me, I'm looking for the 20% of people that want to produce 80% of the work and, just grind it out and then pay them more. Because I could have, 20 guys that are half-assed, making whatever, let's say, $35K or $40K a year. Obviously, we're seasonal, so it's a little different. Or I could pay, 8 guys and pay them, $70K because they're just weapons. They're working extra. They're grinding. They're, have the core values. So that's why I pretty much tell guys, like, if you want to make it, I built a system where you can go and make as much as you want based off your effort. And if you don't like it, then beat it.
What does that system look like for laborers, like performance pay?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, ours is very straightforward. It's like everything's pretty much on a linear, footage type of thing. Gutters, linear, fascia, linear. Soffit has square foot, but there's a way to just do it linear. Downspouts linear, and so everything has just a job. I can see there's 200 feet of gutter, 200 feet of fascia, and 500 square feet of soffit, and then 80 feet of downspout. For those of you who don't know, it's just things by the roof. Basically, it's part of like the roof system there. But we just kind of pay them based on the per foot, and the more they do in a week, the more they make. And so
it's basically piecework.
To a degree, but like they're all employees, so they get paid hourly. So there's a kind of a crazy that we've been just working towards to try and make it so it's so it makes sense for them. But we realized nobody wanted to work weekends, so we're like, okay, well, if you miss out on Saturdays, based on our pay here, you get paid the most on Saturdays. So if you want to take your Saturdays off, go for it. But just know you're missing out. You're passing up the most profitable day for you. And so just trying to motivate them. Gamify. We're trying to add some scorecards to scoreboards to everything. So they're going to be competing. And then right now I'm kind of trying to create a role for a project manager. Nice. And so that the project manager job is going to be QC, like quality control. And so obviously when you put guys on where they can, make by the foot, they're going to try and obviously cut corners. And so I'm there to tell them, if you mess up, you're going back, and I'm not paying you extra footage for that. So, it's kind of like an hourly plus a footage thing. It's kind of a complicated equation that we've been trying to, formulate.
Crack the code.
Yeah, because it's just, there's so many different factors, 2 guys, 3 guys, 1 guy's gone for a bit, trying to just sort it out where it all makes sense. But we're down to the, the last, 15% of the equation.
Nice.
But yeah, just trying to motivate each guy based on their position. You got different types of personalities, whether you're production, you're gonna have different personality, sales, different personality, admins, different personality, and then finance usually outsource that.
Do you ever find that like your guys will be like, oh, I want to take off Monday and work Saturday, like swap the days out?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's every week the footage resets. So
does it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. So it's like it's a certain amount of linear footage per week.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so every single week it resets, and it's like if you lay like whatever, 100 linear feet and down, you get nothing. Like, is it?
Well,
tiered?
you always get something. Yeah, but it's tiered.
It's
yeah,
tiered.
It's
Okay,
tiered.
cool,
Yeah.
nice. That's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so 2023 you're at 750.
Yeah, we kind of took on a tangent there. We got to bring it back.
We got to bring it back a little bit.
The weave, as Trump says,
Yeah. 100%. So, 2024, last year.
Yeah.
It was a sick year. I got introduced to you.
Yeah.
A lot of self-development shit.
Yep.
That was fun. I know me, you, Justin, Amar, we were all traveling quite a bit, so that was sick.
Yeah. I would say before we go 2023 was the year when I went to my first conference. I went to the Vault conference that year.
Yeah.
And that was pretty dope. That was kind of the year when I went to that conference, I really got exposed to realizing how miniature we were. Because obviously when you're in your hometown and, you whatever you're doing, 700 or a million or whatever, people around you think like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. Like, we know that, like, that's nothing. Like, if you're growing, if you went from, 500 to a million, there's not a lot of profit because you were growing and you made a lot of mistakes. So even though you get to million, it's like, there's not much more profit because you just were spending a lot on stupid things. But going there when I heard, 20, 50, 100, 200, $1 billion companies, I'm like, yo, who are these cartoon characters? But I got to meet some of them, and it was really pivotal just being able to, get the materials that we learned, have the connections, and then that propelled me obviously to 2024 when I went to another one of their conferences, which Justin and I just got back from this year, SLS at Mar-a-Lago. And so in 2024 I went to that one. And I went there by myself, though, actually. Like, just me, caught a flight, went there. I think it was like $5K USD at the time. And it's just a really small, intimate group with just everyone's heavy hitters. Like, I was literally the most...
Smallest fish in the pond.
Yeah. And,
Gotcha.
And what was the funniest part was a lot of guys, everyone was running one business, and I was running two. And my two businesses combined were, they're, months revenue for one of theirs. And I'm like... what am I doing running two businesses? Like, this makes no sense. I have no systems, I have no structure, there's no profit. And, there is profit, but, when one has profit, the other one is, suffering. And so it's, as opposed to, fixing, doing permanent solutions, you're just kind of putting Band-Aids here, no real solutions, and profit's just leaking between your fingers. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I got back, I just spoke to my lawyer, spoke to my accountant, and said, I'm trying to prep this thing to sell at the end of the year. And so that when I got back, that's when I realized so I worked from then to the end of the year trying to, put it in a way where it could be sellable, because at that time it was not sellable.
Yeah, and that's something that too, like Andy Frisella, who I watch quite often, who he is as well, but he says that all the time. He's like, you're gonna try and put 50% of your effort into two different things. There's no way you're gonna win against somebody who's gonna put in 100% in one.
Well, where I was really messed up was 2021. I had the two cities with gutter guys doing the window cleaning, and then we bought another company. So I basically had essentially three mini companies in two cities with no systems, no structure, and it was. With the head cut off. I was the most. My sister came to visit me that one spring, and in April or May, came by. She was in town in Kitchener, and so she came for breakfast, and she was like, "I have never seen you so anxious." I was shaking the whole time. I was just a nervous wreck. I had a nice, bacon and eggs, and pancakes, breakfast. We went to Angel's, and I didn't touch it because I literally could not eat. I was just so stressed about, the jobs and getting work and paying the bills. And it seemed like every time we got money was going out, money was coming in, money was going out. And the bank accounts were just we'd have to just collect just to pay the bills and then reset. And it felt like I was on just the worst ride of my life that I felt like was never going to end. And so when I decided to shut that, Waterloo down, it felt like a bit of a defeat, but it was a tactical retreat because it was just not gonna. It was not functional. It wasn't gonna work, and
for sure.
At the end of the day, it was just never gonna work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna bring this weed back to where we were, but
no, it's all good.
You're paying attention, so
yeah, we'll just hard transfer here.
Yeah.
But okay, so that was 2023. You went to your very first conference, PVD. That was the Vault.
Yeah.
How pivotal was that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been watching his stuff. So when I go from watching his stuff, and I went there with my brother, who's my business partner, and then just us sitting there listening to everything, we realized right away, wow, we got a lot of things to work on. It's almost overwhelming, and I'd say, you maybe apply 20% of it because there's so much but even that 20% is just helpful. It gives you clarity. Mm-hmm. It kind of just opens your mind to what is possible, because when you're just in the, continual cycle of, just in your day-to-day, waking up every day, end of the day, you're tired, you don't feel like you did anything, there's not much money, there were just problems. It seemed like it's never going to end. And so when you get to step away for a little bit and, see how things can be, then it gives you a lot more life, gives you a lot more energy, and just infuses you with, injects you with hope that, you can do it. And so, I came back, finished off the year, and then just tried to make some adjustments for the next year.
Mm. Yeah, that's sick. So how important do you think that was to actually open up your eyes? I know when I went to my first thing, I was mind blown.
Yeah, mind blown.
I was like, dude, you're in rooms with guys that you never even thought even existed.
Yeah, you thought they wasn't real.
Literally.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, how was that experience for you? Like, just talking with these guys and they're just casually throwing out crazy numbers at you, like.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I was just in general tickets. I just bought like the $600 like nosebleeds, but it was. You know what it was? It was just being there, talking to guys. Me and my brother going back. He obviously gives you homework. Being able to really reflect on that.
Yeah.
It really just helped us put in perspective, what we can do. And so, a lot of times, people now. Last year I think we probably all together between flights, accommodations, food, venue tickets, and then whoever I brought, which is me and my brothers or me and a couple of employees. I'd say last year we probably spent close to $100K on like going to conferences or things like that.
Fuck yeah.
And like when I talk to just a regular civilian, they're like, "Are you insane?" And I'm like, "Not really." To me, it seems normal. Like everyone I talk to is like, "Yeah, obviously invest in your business." Like why do I need
100%.
Why do I need that? What would that $100K do for me now? Mm-hmm. If I wouldn't change that $100K for all the information, all the relationships, all the network that I created, that's worth. It's priceless. Again, those people that I met in 2024 at the second Mar-a-Lago event, mm-hmm. I went to 3 or 4 of their hometowns. So one was in New York, one was in LA, one was in Indiana, and I don't know, there's one more, but I got to actually go to see their stuff and see how they run their businesses. And we're talking $100 million solar, we're talking $50 million water filtration and plumbing. And then we're talking $80 million foundation repairs.
Damn.
So you can't just pick up. You can't just go on YouTube, look at a big company, call them, like, let me come and check out all your shit. Like they're gonna be like, who the hell are you? Yeah. But when I meet you at an event, I shake your hand, I talk to you. You give me 10 minutes of your time because I'm here investing, and you see me as a young guy trying to make it out out the gutter.
Sure, literally.
Then you're like, you know what? I'll help this guy out. And, I would say one of the things I'm good at is just, being able to network, be friendly, be approachable, mm-hmm. Have the student mentality. I think it's called like the Shoshin mentality, just like the student mindset, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, taking that and going to all their places, just absorbing, just absolutely just a sponge, taking everything I can. Mm-hmm. It is just like out of this world.
It's so crazy too, because like when you go to like, I remember like going to these events, it's like the very first one, you're almost like edgy. You're like, fuck, I don't even know if this is worth it. And then after that, you're just instantly addicted.
It's like, here's my card.
Yeah.
Like, when's the next one? Just run my card.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it just, and I really do think too, like, a lot of people don't really realize, like, how fucking truly important that is to just dump all your money back into your brain.
Yeah, I said the average person, 100K is like, what they make in a year. And so when they think about putting all that just towards, just going to travel and essentially just talking to people and, they think that, spending 100K at university is like, oh, that's a good investment. But then like going and spending 100K, I like want to learn how to make more money is like, are you sure about that? And I'm like, I think you're crazy. Like spending 100%. Money in a just a lecture hall, listening to someone tell you about something that's irrelevant and doesn't make you money sounds useless to me.
You spend 100K to go make like 65, 75K.
Yeah.
Or like you can spend 100K to give you $100 million idea.
Yeah, and I went to school, so I did that whole thing. It had some pros to it, but at the end of the day, I was mostly there for basketball, and I was running my business on the side, and then I was, not putting too much time into the business, into the school stuff, and I was like taking some business classes, and obviously university has its pros to it, depending on where you want to go into. If you want to be a doctor, well, I don't recommend watching YouTube videos on how to become a doctor. Like, no. I know that's the last thing I want is somebody doing an operation on me who's watching YouTube.
Well, I'm a little nervous for those nurses and doctors from COVID.
Yeah, they just, exactly. So
I guess we'll see.
Like in some situations it makes sense, but when you're going there, you just, kind of mess around doing uselessness. There's so many people you can tell right like, that's not for you.
Yeah. So I guess that's a good perspective then. So when you were in school, obviously you didn't have the perspective of what you have now, but now that you have both, you know what I mean? If someone was to tell you, hey, I want to go to school and, you know what I mean, take a similar path, go play a sport for a bit, and then figure out what I want to do later, what would you say?
Well, I don't regret playing the basketball. That was, again, I said that experience where I went to, I kind of had a hero's arc there for myself where I, was down bad and then came back and won. That to me is priceless as well, because that was just a different, level, and that kind of, allowed me to have some closure when I ended up stopping playing basketball. So I would say for those who are, playing sports and you're, taking it serious, then sure, do that. But then realize that when you're in school, there's not that much class, and you can definitely do, some other things on the side. But you shouldn't just be, feeling accomplished because you went to a lecture in a day. That's what, when I first started out, that's why I was like, oh, it was a good day. I went to one lecture, so let's go and smoke some weed. Like, it wasn't, the reward.
There's no drive.
There was no drive, and there wasn't, the reward mechanism that most university students have for their effort is poor at best. And so, making sure that you're doing other things that are actually going to help you. And if you are that, person who wants to be an entrepreneur, then that's essentially a great amount of time where you can be learning, networking. There's other people that are going to be doing side hustles while they're in school. And so try to, if you are going to do that, try and put yourself in those circles where you're not just there just to have, 4 years of playtime, but you're actually, when you leave, it's pretty eye-opening. It's kind of like when you're at the bar and the lights turn on at 2 a.m. all of a sudden you're like, damn, like I'm still here. That's kind of the vibe when you get out of university. It's like you're there, the lights are on, and now you got nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. So, you want to make sure that when the lights do turn on, you have something to show for it, because it's all playing game until you're done school and then you're in the real world.
100%. Okay, so last year, right, you said you went to, how many events do you actually go to, like number of events?
Yeah, last year was pretty nuts. I went to the SLS at Mar-a-Lago, then I went to Andy Elliott's in the summer, and then I went to the Vault, and then there was something else that I did. I did one more. Can't really remember it, so it probably wasn't that good. But again, sometimes it's hit or miss. You gotta, not every single one is gonna be great. Just like buying a course, not every course is gonna be great. Not every YouTube video is gonna be perfect. But the more you go to, the law of averages. If you do a little bit of research and you try and at least put a bit of effort in besides just pulling out your wallet. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's most people's problem. I think most people their wallets are too tight, and so that's not typically most people's problem. But if you're gonna do that, just put a little bit of effort in and try and find the ones that's gonna be most in line with what you're doing. Sometimes people just go to like the Grant Cardone pitch fest and just rah motivation, but then it doesn't really do anything for you.
Give you any value.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say no matter what, whatever event you go to, there's some value, because you're just exposing yourself to a different element that you haven't experienced before. For sure. And so I would say that you get value no matter what. It just varies on the level of value that you get. And so the more, you can align yourself with what you want to do. If you want to become a real estate agent, try and find a real estate networking event that you can go to and, learn from that. If you're trying to become a home builder, try and find one there. If you want to become whatever it is, try and align yourself as much as you can, niche down. But if you're not sure, then maybe go to a general one and just say, let me see what this, entrepreneur, conference looks like. And it'll give you, going from zero, anything is value. If you have no insight of what you want to do or where you want to go, or you don't know, what's out there. For us, we see there's abundance of options and ways to make money. And now we're at the point where we're just trying to pick which vessel we want. But most people have their lenses like, there's nothing. There's like, they don't see anything else but a job. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you can, expose yourself to that, then you'll start seeing opportunities just from shaking hands. Buying the ticket's one thing, but then also when you're there, actually applying yourself and trying to actually go out of your comfort zone. Like when I was there at the SLS in 2024 by myself, literally I'm going there, I didn't know one person, and I walked away with 5 or 6 people's phone numbers that I had actual great conversations with, because I would just walk to them like, I'm Jackson, I'm from Canada, I run this, I heard you speak, or I saw you, what do you do? And then you just go into it and, be more interested in them than, interested than them, I guess, being interested in you, and they'll appreciate that. And if you're asking decent genuine questions, and showing that you're not there to waste your time, the amount of guys that have reached out to me asking for help, and they're just tire kickers. Like, there's like, when you get leads and they're just useless. Like, so many people are just useless. Like, they want help, but they just want to hear it just so they feel like they're productive. Again, that reward mechanism, like they talk to me and they go home like, well, I did something. Let me smoke some weed. And it's like, well, you just wasted my time. That's what you did.
Yeah, that's another thing that people got to be careful of, man. Is like, you can't get too wrapped up in that. Because I know I did that for a little bit, to be honest, right? It was like I would get fulfillment from watching a video about something, taking a couple notes, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like the only thing that's going to get you from point A to point B is motion.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
I mean, again,
action.
One of the things that I did from the very beginning was, even in like 2020, I saw a guy that was in Ottawa running a, window and gutter and, asphalt ceiling business. Mm-hmm. And I had already moved out of Ottawa. And, I cold DM'd him on Instagram. Was like, yo, bro, I went to Ottawa. Obviously, like some type of connection. He was at Carleton. I was Ottawa. He was like, 3 years older, 4 years older. I was like, I'm doing, kind of what you're doing. I was Ottawa. Like, I see what you're doing. I'd love to, hop on a call. And then he said, sure, hopped on a call. Had a few, Zoom videos, whatever. And then I was like, I'd love to come out and see your shit. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, okay, bet. 2 weeks later, me and my two partners driving our truck all the way down to Ottawa. Spend the day, a couple days there trying to learn how he's doing things, and then came back here. The same thing. I met. I think I heard about Justin after that, and like a couple years later, and then I cold DM'd him. Congrats on hitting the mill. I'm doing this. Love to grab a coffee. Linked up, hit off right away. I met Amar, who's in here as well, who's like a wholesaler. I think he was on your pod, just the last pod.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so he's my roommate now, and I met both of them just getting coffee from a cold DM, and then from there. Justin connected me with somebody in Toronto who's doing, window cleaning, gutter cleaning, pressure washing business. Bigger than mine, was like 4 times bigger than mine. Hit him up, drove out there like did it a week later. So like you gotta be able to, when you get the information and you get the opportunity to show that you actually give a shit and that you're not there to waste your time. And so that's what I did when I went to the vault. I mean the SLS last 2024. Mm-hmm. I got the information. I told this older guy I'm gonna come check him out. He didn't think I was serious. Like a month later, me and Tristan drove all the way down to New York. Just went there for 3 days. He was surprised I was there. And then the next guy that I met there, the plumbing guy, we were just DMing all year long. I'd see his stories, whatever, back and forth. I told him at the SLS that I was gonna come check him out. December or January, went to go check him out. And then same thing with the other guy. I met him at the Vault 2024 at the CEO session. Had like an hour chat. Me and Justin were talking with him. And then told him I was going to come check him. And then pulled up to see him. So when people, hear one thing and then they see a follow-up, they see you actually putting in the effort, they see that you're actually not, just a tire kicker, then they're like, what do you need? And then you have access to them. And, now these guys that are, $80 million guys, I text him. I swear to you, I could text him right now. Within like 10 minutes, he would respond back to me with anything that I asked him for because he knows that I'm willing to actually not waste his time and put in the work. So, there's obviously the initial, engagement with them, but then after that, it's follow up and actually, show that you appreciate them besides just, thank you so much, all your words, because words mean nothing. And so, yeah.
So how important, like, let's just say, right, you're talking to, I don't know, 15, 16, 17-year-old guy. He's hungry. He wants to get after it. And he's DMing people. No one's answering. What are you saying to that guy? What would you do in that situation?
I would probably say, like, they're still in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you tell that guy to go do? I don't know, skills to learn.
I would probably, again, YouTube for one. Like, while you're in the process of cold DMing, so that, still trying to learn, I'd say pick up a couple books that can at least, fill your knowledge, because, a 17-year-old, his language is going to be so trash. Like, mine was awful. Like, I didn't know how to speak at all. It was like, yo, dog, what's up? Like, you're not going to be able to, like, if I see that, I'm like, I'm not going to put you in front of anyone. Like, what are we talking about? So trying to improve your language, I would say, would probably be the first thing, by, like, reading books and, like, just, again, absorbing people's content, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. The Hermosis, the Jeremy Minor, those type of guys. You can hear how they speak, their body language, and then pairing that with the books. will at least give you homework to do while you're in the process of trying to find somebody. But I would say like finding a mentor is pretty hard because, you know, for one, they have to have the capacity to actually, you know, bring you on, and you've got to be able to give them value, you know, depending on where the person is and, you know, what the stage of, you know, the business or the entrepreneur is, they might just not be able to help you at that point because they haven't figured it out at all, and so they can't take on another project. They've got a project of their own.
For sure.
But I would say, yeah, really just doing as much as you can of the cold DMing, calling, pulling up to, you know, their offices, showing that you care, and then in between that, just trying to learn and improve your skill set and, you know, offer yourself. Don't come in arrogant. The amount of times where people come up to me and they want to work, but they, you know, they want to be paid, and I'm like, you want from me, but you haven't given me anything. You have no skills. You haven't shown me anything. You haven't bought into anything, and so understand that working for free is not working for free if you're getting information. And so again, I forget who said it, I think Hermosi retweeted, but you know, either got to be learning or got to be earning. Ideal world to get both, but if you're at least learning from somebody, it's valuable. And so for us, obviously, you know, we weren't necessarily earning that much the first few years, but you're at least learning like crazy. And
I was gonna say one thing I'll add to that quick is like there's literally nothing better than just doing what you want to do. Like just go out and do it.
Yeah.
Because the amount that you learn just by going and doing it is like absolutely astronomical. Like there's nothing like you could buy the best course in the world for whatever you're trying to learn, but until you actually go out there and do it, it's different, right? It's like I could teach you how to skate on the whiteboard all day long, but until you put skates on and go on the ice, we're gonna really see who can skate.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's it. And again, just to add more context to, you know, the 15, 16, 17-year-old, depends on what they want.
For sure.
If they, you know, want to get into sales, something like that, I mean, any company will take leads. So if you can, you know, go out there and just knock on doors and try and get a couple leads. If you come to me and say, I got 10 leads for you, I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Let's have a conversation. Like, how'd you get those leads?
Sure.
What'd you do? And if you tell me you knocked on doors, I'll be like, okay, cool. But you're, again, because you're bringing me something.
Starting with value.
Yeah, you're starting with value. If you want to, you know, run a business, then maybe just find a window cleaning, you know, a guru online or something like that and just see if you can just start. I mean, it's not that hard to knock on doors. Hey, can I clean your windows? That's how I started. And so it just depends on what they want to do. If they want to try and become a business owner, then like realistically, if nobody's doing it, then just go knock on doors and try and fulfill the service yourself and see, and you'll learn a lot quickly from, you know, try to do that for a month or two. So it just depends on, you know, the context of the person, what they want. Do they have a car? I mean, if you don't have a car, it's pretty hard to do anything if you don't have your license. Because most things you need a license besides knocking on doors. So context behind it would obviously help me make a, you know, more sound piece of advice for that person. But
for sure,
those are kind of the things that come to mind.
Okay, cool. How critical is sales? Like I know, like I've said it many times, and Justin introduced me to obviously door to door, but like my kids are definitely doing door to door for sure. Like it is the most resilient building thing you can do when you're young, like by far.
Yeah, I mean, when I was like grade 5, we were not the snow day. I saw money. You know, if everyone saw snow and I saw dollar bills. You know, so we like go knock on doors and shovel driveways. And so even from the beginning, I know I'm sure my dad, when he saw, you know, me bringing my two brothers or whatever to go with me and my neighbor, my brother going out, I'm sure he probably just put a smile on his face, seeing us go out there and knock on doors, come back. We made like $200, split that 3 ways, worked like 10 hours, you know, made like $50 a piece or $60 a piece. And we were lit because it was like our money. We did it. And so he would drive us to the store and go buy some candy or whatever. And like, it was just like, you know, we went out there, got ourselves, even though we were making like, you know, slave money. It was my money at the time. You know, I don't have any bills, so that money, you know, to somebody might be a slave money, but to me, it was all the money I had. So I earned it. And it certainly was kind of the one of the catalysts, obviously. I mean, I always had the knack for just, you know, doing that. I knew I wasn't smart enough to become an engineer, so I knew it was pretty much sales or business was what it was going to be. And, you know.
I was going to say, too, like, I'll literally never forget, like, when Justin told me, he's like, yo, you got to go knock on doors. And I was out there, like, that fucking night, but, like, dude, my heart was in my throat. Oh, I'll never forget. Like, I low-key want to go to that house and be like, "Hey, can I just buy your door off you and just hang it up in the office for the store?" You know?
Oh, the amount of
that
times
shit was fucking crazy.
The amount of times that, you know, when we first started out, I'd go to someone's door and I'd have like a pitch in my mind, and I'd just be like, because you all of a sudden you just choke up and you can't speak. You forget your name, you forget who you are. Because all of a sudden they're at the door like, what do you want? And I'm like, I want money, you know? Yeah, and so it's a nerve-wracking thing, but honestly, when I pitched it to my brother, because he was way more nervous and introverted, I'm like, bro, if we can knock this down, then it's gonna we'll be able to talk to girls so easily. And so for him, when he first started, he was just so awkward, so nervous. And once he started knocking on doors, he just realized like, I'm helping them. I think that's a framework, because once you realize like you're here to help them, most times people get like, they feel bad because they're trying to get money, but really at the end of the day, the first thing you're trying to do is help the homeowner. And so when you switch your frame from like, it's about you to it's about them, then for him, he was like, oh, okay, cool. And so then he started talking. Obviously, he's not the best at that time of objection handling and doing all those things, but they could tell he was just a nice guy that wants to help out. And so once he started doing that, then all of a sudden I'm seeing this guy at the bar start talking to girls. I'm like, what the? But I saw the correlation, the skills that he was earning in the summer, in the daytime, he'd go and turn them on in the nighttime, so it's
different type of leads.
Different type of leads,
For sure. No, that's it. So swinging back to 2024, when you sold the window cleaning company, what was that thought process? So I know you said 2023, you noticed that your combined revenues of two companies weren't even equivalent to the revenue of one of whoever you were at, right, at the sales conference. So what was that thought process like from the 2023 to actually making a decision to sell to actually selling?
Yeah, so I mean, for one, they're, in my mind, the two businesses when I bought them were integrated, and they are a little bit, but they're very different. One's like a low ticket reoccurring, and then one's more of a higher ticket. I'd say mid ticket. There's bigger ticket. I mean, your stuff is bigger ticket. But trying to build systems for both, again, the Band-Aids back and forth was getting very tiring. And so I didn't like the windows. It was annoying with just clients' little drips. They call me back. The clients are nickel and diming. It's a $200 job, and they're like being annoying. So the quality of the clients was kind of more annoying to me. And so, I mean, my brother and I never liked window cleaning to begin with, really. It was just kind of like we fell into it. I know that's a lot of people's stories. They just kind of fall into something they do. And so we started pivoting to gutters the year prior. And so we already saw that gutters was, you can make more with less people and things like that. Now, we didn't know everything. But with the window cleaning, when it came back, the companies were actually joined under one corporation. And so that made the numbers really, shitty. If you're trying to sell a business, they want to know your past few years, your year-end statements, your P&Ls, like that. And so we didn't really have any for it because it was a mix still. The marketing for Gutter Guys and Blue Diamond was kind of fugazi. The sales was kind of fugazi. The materials, because was this? Was this employee working here? Some of my employees would jump back and forth. So the numbers weren't the prettiest. So when I came back, first thing I did was open up a corp just for Blue Diamond. So at least that year's numbers could all be under, their own, bank account, their own stuff like that. So we could track how much was the sales, marketing, materials, things like that. So that was the first step we had to do, or else it was pretty much an unsellable business. Or if we did try and sell it, we'd lose a lot of points. And then just throughout the year, we're just trying to really, add to the revenue of it, because obviously you're going to get a multiple. So we're trying to watch our, our expenses, things like that, to try and make it as nice as we could. And if I'm honest, I could have spent more time on it. I could have made it nicer, but I was just so done with the window cleaning side of things that the Gutter Guys was the business I started. That was a name that me and my brother started in 2018. So obviously there's more of an attachment to your first business versus, I'm sure once I, get more businesses, I won't care as much as the first one. And so the window cleaning stuff, we were just really trying to get everything in order, but we just didn't care about it. So I already knew whatever. I just wanted whatever I could get for it by the end of the year. But yeah, we spent a lot of time in the summertime with the accountants trying to, work things out. And then in the fall, I think it was October, I had a couple local guys that were thinking about buying it, lowballing it, whatever. So I put it on Canada Business for Sale, a website. Actually, I didn't do it. My brother, my youngest brother, he actually just did it behind my back. I didn't even know, which was honestly great because I thought my business wasn't that valuable, or I didn't know what I was going to get for it. And we put it on there, and then we got a lot more bites for it. And so transparency, we did, I think, The year before we did like 600,000 in that line of the business, and then last year we did like 550. Now gutter guys went from like 400 to like 1.1 last year, so obviously our attention was more on the gutters and less on the business, which is why I went down a little bit, but not by much. And so we were just trying to, make it as close to the last year's one as possible. And when the year end came and we were kind of in negotiation with a couple businesses that were looking to buy it, one was local, one wasn't. There was, it was an interesting experience. Definitely one that I got to get a lot of experience from because there was a broker. So there was the buyer and then they had a broker. And the broker was definitely, more experienced than us. He's obviously, I think that year he sold like, 20 or 15 businesses. So like he's done the transactions.
Knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's seen what, businesses look like. And at the end of the day, the broker's there for two things. For one, it's to, get the buyer the cheapest price. But then more importantly is to make sure that the business is actually sound and solid and the reputation's good. The numbers look pretty good. And you could try and fluff up businesses, but if you give someone, when you have to give somebody everything to buy it, you have to send them everything. All your expenses, all your they get to look at your clients. They get to look at how much if it's repeat, what's your collection rate, how much you're spending on marketing, all these things. So it was next time I sell a business, we know we can make it look a hell of a lot sexier. But that process took. I think we started negotiation with all the people in like October, and then we kind of came down to like 2 in December. And we were trying to close January 1st or December 31st, but the last 2 or 3 weeks there's a lot more things that go on at the end. They're trying to squeeze you're trying to add more, and so a lot of back and forths. But they were a big business and they had a lot of value to add to it, which is I think a big thing that I learned is that when you're buying a business, you want to buy a business that you can add value. If I'm buying a business solely to take from them, then that's not necessarily a really good, not necessarily the best thing to buy, because if I'm banking on everything that you're going to give me, that's a bit of a bit more of a liability. Where if I look at your business and I see, let's say you're still doing paper, quotes and pen and paper, and you have no tracker. Let's say you have all good things, but you don't know how to market. I can come in here and I can market like crazy. Then I know that all your systems are good. If I just add my marketing, I can double the business in like a year or two. And so their business was out of like Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, which is like an hour from here. And they did like I think 1.5 in just the window cleaning business, but they also did like high rises. So they were their business had like people on chairs swinging down from the big buildings, and we had a lot of clients that wanted us to do that, but we didn't do it because again, it's like almost its whole other business. You got to have the liability for it. You got to have the equipment. You got to have the guys for it. We didn't have any of that, but the business we bought used to do it back in the day, the Blue Diamond. So they saw it as they were looking to expand. They actually saw when Blue Diamond went for sale. When we bought it
first time,
yeah, they actually saw it, but we got it before them, and so we bought it for $50,000, and we did it with seller financing, which is basically we didn't necessarily want to put up the money, and he was a pretty motivated seller. He was an old guy. He inherited from his son who moved, and he took over during COVID, but he wasn't really motivated to run anymore, and he didn't know how to run a business, and so we bought it for $50,000, paid him $5,000 down, and then just gave him $2,000 a month until it paid off. So we paid it off. Like in 2 years, something like that. I think we paid him like $20,000 a year for the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. So we just took from the money we made from the business, gave it to him, which is something that Cody Sanchez talks about a lot. Is when you're trying to buy a business, look at somebody who's unmotivated or old and wants to retire, and you can get it where their business is not that many buyers, so you can offer them a deal where you don't have to put anything down. You just give them a little bit down and then just pay them back. It's called seller financing, and so that's what we did with when we did this. But we took it from 200,000 in revenue to 600, so we tripled it because we just had obviously systems better technology than him. He was still doing pen and paper quotes. He didn't have marketing. Again, the brand's been around for a while, and so there was a lot of value in the brand that this company wanted because it's been around for so long, has a good reputation, been around for 35 years.
So when you bought it, what was the motivation to buy that business if you guys were already doing?
He reached out to us. He reached out to a lot of people in London. Nobody else wanted it. Okay. And so we saw it as
So he just cold called you.
He just called the line, said, "I'm trying to sell my business," and it was I think at the end of the year prior. So like we bought it I think March of 2021, and so he reached out to us in 2020 end of the year, and so we bought it then, and he just wanted out. He just was done with it. He's like 80. He's like, I just want to just go back to retirement. Like, I don't want. I'm an accountant, and so nobody else wanted because it was a lot of work to go through. I mean, when you buy a business, you gotta see all the skeletons in the closet, do all the work, talk to all the clients, all the quote, all the pricing was too low, and so we had to go in there and jack up the price, piss off a bunch of customers. They just do a bunch of stuff, but we had to because the pricing wasn't up to date. And so a lot of companies saw that and said, I don't want to deal with that, but we said, why not? My dad looked at it and said, honestly, it's a pretty good deal. You should do it. And so that's why we bought it.
Okay.
And then again, fast forward to us negotiating, we brought it from 200, 600, or 580 or whatever. Long process. They really picked us apart, the broker.
So how stressful was it, like, getting all this paperwork together, like, fucking...
It was a lot of work. It made me with our accountants to kind of go over our books and try and polish them up. And then also, we really want to get rid of it. So we were motivated sellers. As much as the guy was, so we were selling when we bought from him, he was motivated. We were motivated too because we had this other business that we wanted to go into, like full in the gutter guys.
Yeah.
We wanted the cash to go buy more trucks and stuff like that. And so we wanted the money to be able to invest in the business that we actually cared about more.
For sure.
And so we were a bit motivated. And at the end of the day, we took a bit of a shaving from what we could have. If we, let's say, kept it this year, ran all the way through the year, really polished the numbers, fixed a few more systems, maybe got rid of a couple services, added a few things that we wanted to add, we could have got a much higher multiple. We ended up getting $275,000 for it. Mm-hmm. So still not bad if, we 5X'd it. But because our numbers weren't as polished, we had to offer him seller financing as well, the company, because it was a liability. They only had, statements from a year. And so for them, they were like, we're not giving you $275,000 and then not only seeing what you did 1 year. And so again, in hindsight, had we, maybe made the corp right away, had the numbers, organized and polished throughout the whole process, that's like everybody's problem. I'm sure you're in the same boat, like you not knowing all your numbers.
For sure.
It's kind of how it is. That's like not a thought in your mind, but when you're all of a sudden trying to sell a business, that's going to bite you in the butt if you want to sell it and all those things are in order, because you're just going to get, your multiple is going to get destroyed.
So when you say this guy, like this broker, right, picked you apart, what do you mean by that? Yeah,
so the first meeting when we had where, we were showing them all our stuff. We made some nice presentations, and we told them our profit was whatever, like 150,000, so 25. Yeah, Tristan made it. Obviously we sat together.
It's gotta be good then, eh?
Well, it was pretty good, but so we had all of our stuff. We were showing them like our quoting process, our sales. We're showing them like our website. We're like how it was getting us leads. Showing them how we're getting leads, knocking on doors, all of our pitches, all of ours. We showed him everything, and he was like, "Wow, this is like one of the best businesses, like most organized things." So we're feeling all good. Like okay, we're gonna get a good thing. And before we had actually put it on the Canada Business for Sale, I was like, maybe we'll get 100. But then once we put it on there, we realized that it was actually more valuable than we thought. And so then people were saying like 300, 350, whatever. And so we're like, okay, cool. And so we thought we were going to get the 350 from him. So he was making us feel good. And then when it came down to actually them giving us the offer, he just went in. He's like, well, your shit's sketchy. Your trucks suck. He just like going through and picking us apart on all the little things that like we thought we were going to get away with. He's like, nah. And so then, we went back and forth a few times, had many meetings where he's like, I'll give you 200. I'm like, hell no. And then he was like, what do you want? I'm like, 300. And then I had other buyers. I was like, I've got another buyer. And so we were just going back and forth it. And then we ended up coming to, the 275. But then our trucks were old piece of shit. And so at the end, he's like, well, your truck sucks, so I'll give you, 250. And then, I kind of told him I'll take a couple days. One of our other buyers, a new buyer, came in the blue like a week before we're going to close and was like, I'll give you 315 all in and like cash up front. So then I told them and I was like, all right, listen guys, I want the 275 or else this guy just gave me cash. I'm not bluffing. I'll give you his number. I'll show you the offer. And so then they were pissed because I obviously like last minute, they switched on me, but then I put it back on them. And so at the end, it was like back and forth because it's the last bit where it's like everyone's tense and we're motivated to get rid of it because we don't want to be left with it. They want it because they don't want to go somewhere else because a business like this, there's not many other businesses in London that are doing window cleaning, what we're doing. And so then he's like, they gave me one more offer. It's like 24 hours, 275, and I need you to sign like tonight. So then we're like, all right. So then we signed it. It was like $100K up front, and then the other 175 was over the next next year and a half or something like that. And so ended up working out that way. But certainly an experience where I know we could have got more. If I kept one more year, I could have got them. I could have probably got 400. But I looked at it, the opportunity cost of, okay, do I keep the same business? Gutter guys won't grow as quickly. We'll lose money here. We'll lose money on Blue Diamond from like inefficiencies. And then maybe I'll get the extra, 175 or 125. Or do I just take that, invest that, and then get gutter guys from, 1.2 to 4? Mm-hmm. And so, the opportunity cost of trying to squeeze it for everything it's, we could get versus just, saying, I'll take what I can get and put it all in that is what we ultimately decided. We don't want the headache, trying to train sales reps on 2 different companies. Are you a Blue Diamond sales rep? Sure. Are you gutter guys? What shirt are you going to wear? It's just like too much to try and do. And so then we're just like, cool. So then we signed, closed like 2 weeks later. We hit the money, hit the account, and then, now they're running it. Honestly, they were the company that actually wanted to give them best because they were the biggest out of all the other ones. And so they had a longer track record. They already are doing it. They've already scaled beyond what we did for the windows. And honestly, I know they got a good deal. Like, I know, like, they had probably 40 or 50 buildings in London that they could go and do high-rise pour that are going to give them, anywhere from 10 to 30 grand to go clean their windows. So I know that they can add value immediately. And so it was a good deal for them because they had all of our clients, but they had systems that we didn't have and services that we didn't offer that they could inject right away. And so for them, it was a good deal. But I just know I know I left money on the table because we just weren't organized as we should have. And so, again, it was just overall a really good experience going into like a first, acquisition and sale of a business. And, for the next one, we'll be much more prepared and we'll know what's coming when it gets down to the last few days of the sale. So, yeah, that was kind of, yeah.
That was a sick experience then.
Yeah, dope. Yeah. Hopefully I explained it properly. I know I kind of was bouncing back and forth, but, yeah, it was quite the ride for sure.
That's fire. And then, I guess last couple of questions here, but what would you say is like top contributor to your mentality today? Because obviously, if you own a business and you're doing this stuff and you're buying and selling and this and that, you gotta have a certain type of mentality. What do you think is the top 3 reasons why you've been able to develop the mentality that you have today?
Well, for one, I would say is that there's obviously a little bit of ego where it's like I think I can do anything, and so if I think I can do something, then it's like my pride is like I can't fail.
Your self-belief.
Yeah, and also there's like I don't like to lose, and so even me shutting down Waterloo, as much as like it had to happen, it felt like a defeat because I'm retreating. People know in Waterloo that I'm doing it. I had clients are there, and so that was a bit of a humbling retreat. But at this point now, I'm just like, I'm good. Like, I'm figuring this out. I'm gonna do this because if I try and go to another business, the grass looks greener. But at the end of the day, business is all the same. You got to market, you got to sell, you got to produce it, and you got to make sure that you're finances are in order. It's the same thing no matter what business you do. And so I know this is the first of many businesses that I do, and I'm like, I got to figure this one out, or else it doesn't matter. My next business is going to end up. I'm going to be at the same plateau, and just more years down the road. And so for me, it's just figuring this one out, getting it down, systemizing it. Either having a system where it can run itself, or build it and sell it is kind of the mentality right now. And again, I've sold one business, so that gave me good momentum there in terms of getting a 5x, even though it's only 5x on 50 to 275. It's still a good thing to add to my overall resume of things that we've been able to accomplish. And again, when I say me, it's my partners now. It's not just me. There's no way I could be able to do this just myself. So I have my 2 brothers that run it. We have our different skill sets. One's really good at production. One's really good at sales and financing and stuff like that. So we are very complementary in that regard. So it's not just me, but in terms of us, having that, we know that once we get this one down, it's just rinse and repeat. That's why these big guys have multiple businesses, because once you get it down, it's all the same.
So I guess how does one take the first couple steps? I know when before I even started anything, reach out to anybody, it was literally just me trying to develop my mind and my body before I even decided to go and start anything. So how would you say develop a mindset that you need to win, not only in business but in life, like what are the steps, actionable steps that you'd be taking if you had to start again?
Are you saying for me, or are you saying for somebody else?
Somebody just looking to start getting into that space, but wants to develop the mentality to be able to actually survive in that space.
I still think the number one trait that will either make you or break you is your self-awareness. So many times people want things, but they don't have the self-awareness to either, realize that they, don't really want everything that entails, or that they're, their skill set might not align for that, and they might have to go and do additional work before they get into it. And so being able to be self-aware and be honest with yourself and say, okay, here's what I'm good at, here's where I lack, here's what I want, here's what it's probably going to take. Do all those things align? If the answer is no, and you can't get that aligned, then there's no point, because you're just going to waste your time. Like the amount of people that obviously you and I know that have tried to start their own business and then didn't do it, and it partly was maybe because they didn't have the knowledge, but also largely because they didn't have the drive, the guts to go out there and do it and grind it out. Like there's no business that's easy. Like every business is hard. There's so many factors that play in, a couple bad decisions can ruin you. And so you got to know who you are. And again, I used to think that everyone could do business, and I've changed my mind. I don't think everybody can, because they don't have that drive. The self-awareness and the drive are the two most important things for me, because if you have the awareness to know what you're lacking, then you have the drive to actually go and execute and improve on those things, then you can pretty much do anything. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times people don't have those, and so if you don't have those, then it's pretty tough. You're just gonna waste time and money. Yeah, you might learn a couple things, but you're not gonna really get far because you don't have the drive for it. And so understanding who you are and what you actually truly want. Everyone, there's this sexy thing going on about entrepreneurship right now. It's like, it ain't that sexy. I mean, right now, if you looked at our lives, it's not that sexy. I mean, this is like the third time I've seen you in like 4 months. I know. And I know, I already know whatever I'm going through right now, I know you're going through it too.
Oh, 100%.
And
people don't understand that business is literally like a war zone.
It is.
It's literally modern day war. Like I always tell my guys this too. It's like what we're doing right now is the equivalent of 500, 600 years ago, getting all our guys on horseback, and we're making this massive plan, sharpening our weapons. We got the fucking blacksmiths making the weapons, and we are about to go raid another village.
Yeah.
Like that is literally the equivalent of what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Right? And so when you come with that mentality, I really do feel like you almost take the emotion of, depending on how you feel this day, I might be able to do this. And it's like, no, it's like when you're think about it primally almost, it's win or lose, it's life or death. It's like that type of mentality of I'm either going to do this or I'm not. Mm-hmm. It's just no halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and having the resilience. Again, the one of the coolest quotes from Hermosi is if you don't quit, you can't fail. And it's like that is very true. And so, and on top of that, it's like the harder it is, the more excited he got, because he realized that most people aren't going to go through that. And so between those two quotes, that is literally it. It's like the harder it is, I know no other gutter companies in London are doing what we're doing.
For sure.
And then secondly, as long as we don't quit, then they won't beat us. Yeah. And so those two things are just things that you have to have. And again, obviously playing sports, having that, adversity again in university, being able to lean back on those. There's other things, when I was, younger, doing cross country, having to, you're tired of shit and you got to keep on going. The race is not over. You got to win, is something that I can take into. So I've had, pain in my life, and most people don't haven't experienced that pain. And so when you're, trying to start a business, the amount of pain you're going to experience is so much. Mm. And it's not just physical. Physical is one thing, but it's the mental, it's the financial, it's the, on the relationship side of things. So if you don't have the, the determination to see it through, mm-hmm. then just don't do it. You don't have to be you don't have to be a business owner. You can be a sales rep. Sales reps make a lot of money. You can be a marketer. They make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to own the thing to make a lot of money. And I think that most times people think it's, but they think it's just one or the other, but you don't have to. You can start as this and then build yourself up and then go to this. And so it's just really realizing who you are, where you're at, and then making the most appropriate step to where you want to be today. You're just going to do it.
So I guess number one trait, self-awareness, is what you said. So let's just say that there's a kid self-aware enough to realize strengths and weaknesses. Would you tell that person to strengthen his weaknesses or double down on his strengths?
Depends on what they are. Because it depends on what they are and what they want. Because, if you're trying to start a business and you are, super shy and you can't talk to anyone, you get anxious just talking to people, well, that's going to be a pretty big, bottleneck
For sure.
off the jump if you can't talk to people. But then it's like, maybe you're really good at talking to people and you're really good at sales, but maybe you're not as good at, the production. Then, I would say go find a business that has a good production and then just double down on the sales. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on depends on the skill that you're lacking. But the three traits that I would say is, again, self-awareness, drive, and then resilience. If you have the self-awareness, realize what you need, you have the drive to do it and then to actually act on it, and then you have the resilience to keep going, then it's game.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's crazy too, because I always use the term, same thing as resilience, but pain tolerance.
Yeah.
You gotta have a high pain tolerance, financial, emotional, physical, everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's there will be days that will seem impossible to accomplish, but you get through it.
Bro, this week, man, beyond production.
You get through it, man.
Yeah.
And it's that's why I always if you see some of our whiteboards, probably almost every single one has the only easy day was yesterday, which is from the Navy SEALs, and I love that quote for that exact reason. Is today's not going to be easy. The only reason why yesterday was easy was because it's done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that is a wrap.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate you having me on the pod.
Absolutely.
You've been great, asking a lot of great questions, and do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.